Like, share, subscribe. Shouts out to the Lions Den community. And don't y'all forget to subscribe to the podcast. Show link will be pinned in the top of the chat.
Just name the channel who could bang with us. I'll prove that you are smoking dust. GGD Media is top notch in this game, y'all. You failures only have yourself to blame, y'all. Ticket TV and a weapons make you suckers cry. Why don't you close your channel, crawl into a hole and die? Shout out to those who love our movement, no, we'll never flop until you get your mouth off LGBT. We are the underground out the job. We built this whole thing by ourselves, no in y'all. Independence start with self-preservation. If you can't take care of self, then how can you build a nation, y'all? Yup, we got that merch for the ladies and yes, we even got that merch for the babies and we got appliances and everything that you will need. We got them banging songs that make anemic haters bleed.
All right, man. So press 2 in the comment section if you guys can hear me, man. Press 2 in the comment section if y'all can hear me. Got a mic check 1 2 1 2, and we gonna get into this. I have some explosive breaking news for you guys right now, man. Unbelievable stuff, man. Oh my God, today has been a crazy day. Kata Shaylin, girl. Oh man, I forgot. I gotta. Hey, listen, man. Let me tell y'all something, man. Oh man, bro. Let's get right into it then, man. Like, share, subscribe, man. Jay-Z's attorneys came out. They dropped that tape. They said that tape proved Jay-Z's innocence. They were suing Tony Busby and the girl. But now evidence has been presented. Everybody said they wanted to see evidence. Well, man, unless Jay-Z's lawyers are going to say that this is fake, I don't know how they can get around this evidence that was dropped today. I mean, they're going to have to, this will be a thing where it is going to have to go through a system to check to see if these messages were truly sent from them to the other, because that's the only way I can see them getting out of this one, is denying that and then having proof that these messages were never sent through the email server. But let me tell you guys what's going on, man. So Jay-Z is basically, his lawyer is basically saying that, look, this girl admitted that Tony Busby was the one who pushed her towards this lawsuit. She admitted that she lied. Jay-Z did nothing to her. The tape, we have her on audio tape, this, that, and the third. And yeah, it is what it is. Well, everybody was speculating about why that case was dropped. And as usual, a lot of these YouTube cats was wrong. They all thought that the case was dropped because the girl was lying. According to court filings and declarations from Tony Busby and another New York law firm that law firm had represented Donald Trump in the past, and another that law firm, they're saying that this girl was in fear that she was going to have her life taken by Jay-Z, and they actually came to a secret agreement. And I will show you guys what's going on right now. Tony Busby put this writing up in the courts today, and this is going to be explosive because along with this is evidence that he has entered into his filing. Bro, man, this is unbelievable, man. I told you guys this is a case of a lifetime, and you guys are going to see. So Tony Busby wrote this declaration, and he says, I, Anthony G. Busby, declare as follows. 1, I am over the age of 18 and party in the above entitled action. I am also an attorney licensed to practice in the courts of the state of New York, or the state of Texas, and the state of New York. I have personal knowledge of the facts set forth herein, which are known by me to be true and correct. And if called as a witness, I could and would competently testify thereto. Number two, this declaration is submitted in opposition to Mr. Carter's ex parte application and further support of Busby Party's special motion to strike. Number three, in October 2024, Jane Doe was referred to my firm by Ava Law Group, a respected law firm with its principal office in San Diego, California. The referral was in connection with anticipated claims, and this has bombshells, y'all. There are more celebrities that are unnamed that they mentioned. Absolute bombshell. Y'all finna see right now. In October 2024, Jane Doe was referred to my firm by Ava Law Group, a respected law firm with its principal office in San Diego, California. The referral was in connection with anticipated claims to be filed by Jane Doe against a range of defendants, including, let me read that line again. The referral was in connection with anticipated claims. So they're saying they anticipated to file these claims by Jane Doe against a range of defendants, including Sean Combs and Sean Carter. They had more celebrities that they hadn't even got to, or they settled with. More commonly known as Jay-Z Carter. In fact, Ava Law's intake, which predated my firm's involvement, already reflected Jay-Z as a litigation target. At the time of the referral, I was informed by Ava Law that they had conducted an investigation into the veracity of the plaintiff's allegations. Ava Law referred numerous cases to us. I was informed that their intake process involved multiple interviews of each potential client, including Jane Doe, including some cases at least one, if not more, attorneys. Number four, following that referral, my firm was retained by Jane Doe in October to pursue claims on behalf against, among others, Carter. After Jane Doe was referred to my firm engaged in further due diligence to investigate the veracity and legal viability of Jane Doe's claim. Multiple attorneys at my firm interviewed Jane Doe and fact-checked various aspects of her account. Number five, on or about October the 20th, 2024, my firm filed the New York action on behalf of Jane Doe, which named multiple defendants, including Combs. My firm was authorized by Jane Doe to file the October the 20th, 2024 complaint in the New York action, NY complaint. The NY complaint also included specific allegations against Jay-Z, Mr. Carter, who was identified in the New York complaint as Celebrity A, including the following. Number 10, I understand. Excuse me, sir. You said, why do I hate black men so much? I love black men. And I love black women. You must hate black men, because if you didn't hate black men, you wouldn't respect if black man is out here doing people dirty, allegedly, sir. If you had nothing to worry about, you'll sit your ass down and shut the hell up. And that's the reason why people get cooked coming into my channel. Number 10. Top of your screen. I understand that Carter has now submitted declarations from two purported investigators who claim they approached Jane Doe on February the 21st, 2025. And that she told them that I pushed her into making what I knew to be a false claim against Carter on or about December the 11th, 2024. when she sat for an interview with the media. The claim is categorically refuted by factual record. My firm was retained in October to pursue claims by Jane Doe that Carter had engaged all word in sexual misconduct. Indeed, she had made that accusation before she even retained my firm, and her allegations against Carter appeared in the NY complaint as early as October the 20th, 2024. She had also executed two affidavits in support of her specific allegations against Jay-Z prior to December the 11th, 2024 interview. In each of the pre-filing interviews that I and other attorneys at my firm conducted with Jane Doe, she appeared both consistent and credible. At each point in this process, we determined that Jane Doe's allegations were credible. It is important to note that I personally interviewed Jane Doe. Remember Jay-Z said he didn't meet her? Well, they said that's a lie. He says, I found her to be credible. In short, we conducted extensive diligence, and the claim we filed against Jay-Z had a more than sufficient basis in fact and law. Number 11, with respect to Carter's association with Combs specifically, despite it being widely known that he is a close associate of Combs, my firm conducted additional research to confirm their connection, which further bolstered our conclusion that Jane Doe's allegations against Carter were plausible, credible, and warranted legal recourse. Our firm also engaged a retired police detective to gather facts about the elements of Jane Doe's claim. They checked out, I declare, under the penalty of perjury, under the laws of the state of California, that the foregoing is true and correct, executed on this 11th day of March, 2025, at Houston, Texas, signed Anthony G. Busby. Goes on. Evidence is getting ready to get dropped. Introduction. Carter, Jay-Z, and his attorneys should withdraw this outrageous, misleading application. The quote-unquote new evidence Carter has proffered to the court, even if accepted, would not justify the denial of motion. Carter's claims all fail as a matter of law, and none of the quote-unquote new evidence he proffers comes close to salvaging his baseless First Amendment amended complaint. Moreover, Carter's quote-unquote new evidence is inadmissible, and his reliance on the Sweetwater and the hearsay exception for declarations against interest is misguided. Sweetwater does not apply to unsworn statements, and his quote-unquote new evidence was acquired under highly suspect circumstances from an intimidated witness who denies even making a statement, such as quote-unquote evidence, lacks any indicia of reliability, and is not within any hearsay exception in any case. The new evidence advances a factual narrative that demonstrably and indisputably false and lacks probative value. If Carter and his attorneys intend to advance the narrative stated in their quote-unquote new evidence, they do so with full notice that they are advocating a factual impossibility. The court need not and should not accept evidence that lacks evidentiary value or draw conclusions that no reasonable fact finder could draw. The incontestable facts, Incontestable facts establish that Carter's evidence is false, if not fabricated, and his arguments are frivolous. The unrebutted evidence shows that Jane Doe was referred to the Busby parties to prosecute claims against Jay-Z and others in early October 2024. After extensive, diligent efforts, the Busby parties filed a complaint on her behalf in October of 2024, which included specific allegations against Jay-Z, who was identified therein as Celebrity A. Jane Doe authorized the sending of a demand letter to Carter in November. Jane Doe executed two sworn affidavits in support of her allegations against Carter, one on November the 18th, 2024, the next on December the 8th, 2024. And also on December the 8th, 2024, Jane Doe authorized the filing of a filed amendment complaint that identified Jay-Z by name as a defendant. Jay-Z's new evidence nonsensically postulates that Mr. Busby convinced Jane Doe for the first time to sue Jay-Z on December the 11th, 2024. After all the foregoing events had already occurred, the demonstrably false theory, supported only by inadmissible hearsay obtained under highly improper circumstances, need not and should not be considered. It goes on. The evidence is coming. Wait for it, y'all. The evidence is coming now. In fact, when Jane Doe was ultimately frightened by Carter into abandoning her claim, Carter's counsel at Quinn Emanuel, John Quinn, and Alex Spiro, on the one hand, and the Busby parties and Jane Doe's New York counsel, Mark Kasowitz, on the other hand, reached an agreement for a global walkaway. Remember all these lying, capping ass niggas on YouTube was saying, it's cap. All lies, nigga. She out of here. Remember they said that? They said she lied. No. And before you open your mouth, I have evidence. Let's stop right here now. Remember them niggas said, oh, hey, man. Hey, man. She was lying. They all lying. Remember that? No, big nose. It's evidence. Big needle nose head. Like I said, you go to church every Sunday and tell lies. Let's keep going, y'all. Let's read that line again from number one, right to the top. It's right there. It's right there. It's right there. Look at this. In fact, when Jane Doe was ultimately frightened by Jay-Z, look at this now. Because y'all finna get this finna light a fire under all of y'all. Right? I want y'all to listen to this, right? In fact, when Jane Doe ultimately frightened by Jay-Z into abandoning her claim, Carter's counsel, Jay-Z's counsel, at Quinn Emanuel, John Quinn, and Alex Spiro on the one hand, and Busby parties and the Jane Doe's New York counsel, Mark Kasowitz, on the other hand, reached an agreement for a global walkaway. 504, they're not all lying because he dropped the proof, sir. And I'm going to show you. Know your role and shut your mouth, boy. Let me read that line again. In fact, when Jane Doe was ultimately frightened by Carter into abandoning her claim, Carter's counsel at Quinn Emanuel, John Quinn, and Alex Spiro on the one hand, and the Busby parties and Jane Doe's New York counsel, Mark Kasowitz, on the other hand, reached an agreement for a global walkaway, which included, that's the dark print y'all see up there at the top, which included Carter, Jay-Z, and his attorney's agreement not to harass or interact with Jane Doe. Jane Doe dismissed her claims in New York on February the 14th, 2025, in reliance on that agreement. It now turns out within a week of that dismissal, investigators ambushed Jane Doe at her home on February the 21st, 2025. Meanwhile, Carter's attorneys in California cited the dismissal as evidence. So they're saying Jay-Z's lawyers in Cali, they cited the dismissal as evidence in this action, without disclosing that it was negotiated and agreed. But Ticket, where's the evidence of that? It's coming. Just wait. The evidence is coming. Just wait. I got it. Just wait. Just wait. It's gonna get sad right here, yo. It's gonna get sad right here. Read that line one more time. Jane Doe dismissed her claims in New York, February 14, 2025. In reliance on that agreement, it now turns out that within a week of that dismissal, investigators ambushed Jane Doe at her home on February the 21st, 2025. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's attorneys in California cited the dismissal as evidence in this action without disclosing, right, that it was negotiated and agreed. They negotiated that lawsuit. When people said, oh man, and wait, before you run your mouth, wait. Because I have the evidence. Tony Busby and that New York law firm, they dropped the evidence, and I'm going to show you. It says, it turns out within a week of that dismissal, investigators ambushed Jane Doe at her home on February 21st, 2025. Meanwhile, Carter's attorneys in California cited the dismissal as evidence in this action without disclosing that it was negotiated and agreed to complete his bad faith gambit and continue harassing Jane Doe and the Busby parties. Carter commenced a new lawsuit in Alabama against Jane Doe, the Busby parties, and others on March the 3rd, 2025. After obtaining a delay on this motion by claiming the discovery of new evidence, quote unquote, the court should not ratify this obvious gamemanship. It is clear that Jay-Z's purpose is to not advance the meritorious claim, but to intimidate and harass the Busby parties through an abuse of the legal process in multiple jurisdictions. For the reasons stated in greater detail below, and in the special motion to strike, the application should be denied, and special motion to strike should be granted in full with prejudice. Y'all know what that means? Y'all know what that means, right? Number 2, relevant background. The application asserts that there is sufficient evidence for the trier of fact to conclude that Mr. Busby convinced Jane Doe to assert untrue claims against Carter on December the 11th, 2024, based on Jane Doe's alleged statement to 2 investigators who mysteriously claim to have not been retained by Jay-Z or his attorneys, without identifying their employer. On February the 21st, 2025, this argument cannot withstand scrutiny when the well-documented timeline of events is considered, and no reasonable fact finder could agree with Jay-Z's argument. They never said who hired those independent investigators. Let's keep going. The evidence is coming, y'all. A, the demand letter and commencement of the New York action, right? Y'all see that down at the bottom of y'all screen. Then let's go to the next page, right? On October the 20th, 2024, it just goes through this whole action, right? It goes through the whole action, all right? Right? Let's go right to B, right? Let's go back to B. B says the resolution of the New York action and Carter's subsequent game playing, I should say, my bad, Special motion to strike was filed on February the 17th, 2025, and set for hearing on February the 25th, or January the 17th, 2025, and set for hearing on February 25th, 2025. Carter did not move for discovery prior to the hearing. Did y'all hear that? Jay-Z did not move for discovery in this case. You know what discovery is? Let's see the evidence. Tony Busby said that Carter did not move for discovery prior to the hearing. On February the 4th, 2025, after discussions between Carter's attorneys at Quinn Emanuel in New York and the Busby party's New York counsel, Mark Kasowitz, an agreement to the person who said you were for Spyro. I was never for Spyro. I said Spyro is a good lawyer. He is. You don't get to the level that he's at. You don't win the litigation that he is. If he's not a good lawyer, he is a good lawyer. What are you talking about? Never said I was on Spyro's side. I never said I was on anybody's side. I said I'm on the side of truth. Don't ever come in here and put words in my mouth, Teresa. Let's not do that. You need to go listen to my video again. You don't get to that level. It's just like the NBA finals. You don't get to the finals if you're not good. That doesn't mean that he isn't, like I said, you can be a good lawyer, but you can be, like I said, you can represent a bad thing, but you can be, that doesn't mean that you're not for example, you could be a bad lawyer, you could be a good lawyer that all you do is get dudes off. That's guilty. That don't mean that you're not a bad person. That means, damn, you got a good lawyer. This nigga getting everybody off. Duh. Use your mind when you think, instead of just listening to stuff and saying anything somebody say to you. You don't get to the level he's at, representing the clients he's representing, if you're just a bad lawyer. You don't do that. Y'all have to use y'all's mind when y'all thinking, or you will embarrass yourself every time. Let's keep going. Don't block her. I don't want to block her. I don't want to do that. I don't want to move like that. I don't want to move like that. Now let's go back to this right here, y'all. Because this thing right here is wicked right here, bro. I'm just telling you guys what the truth is, man. This thing is crazy, bro. Now, y'all look at this right here, right? Y'all look at this right here, right? It says, on February the 4th, 2025, after discussions between Carter's attorneys at Quinn Emanuel in New York and the Busby parties and New York Council, Mark Kasowitz, an agreement was reached confirming certain terms. Remember, I kept telling y'all, I said, yo, why did Jay-Z drop motion for sanctions? Why? If Tony Busby was all these scumbag things that they said, why did Jay-Z drop motion for sanctions against Tony Busby? He'd have nailed Tony Busby ass to the wall with the motion for sanctions. Well, now the truth is being revealed, and I have the evidence here for y'all. The truth is, as you see right there on your screen, they came to a settlement. It says right here, it says that Jay-Z's lawyers and the girl's lawyers came to an agreement that was reached confirming certain terms, which included the dismissal of the New York action, a commitment by Jay-Z and his attorneys that they will, and I quote in all dark letters, they will not authorize, employ, or otherwise engage investigators or anyone else to harass or otherwise interact with my client, his law firm, or his present and former clients, employees, and family. End quote. The premise was a mutual understanding that all parties would walk away from their respective litigations. On February the 4th, 2025, Jay-Z withdrew his Rule 11 motion. That was his motion for sanctions. He removed that as a part of his agreement. They came to an agreement, and I have the email. So before you run your mouth, you need to shut up. On February the 14th, 2025, Jane Doe and Busby parties dismissed the New York action and reliance on the understanding reached between Mr. Kasowitz and Quinn Emanuel that the parties would de-escalate and discontinue their litigations. Why is Jay-Z still suing? Because they say he's a lying scumbag. That's why he's still suing. Because they said he lied and he broke his part of this agreement. And I'm going to show you the email in just a minute. That's why. You have any other questions? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. On February the 21st, 2025, just 1 week later, investigators appeared on the doorstep of Jane Doe, notwithstanding the existence of a negotiated agreement that specifically precluded Jay-Z, his attorneys, and his agents from harassing or even interacting with her. The investigators' declarations suspiciously avoid identifying their employer. February the 18th, 2025, Jay-Z's counsel at Quinn Emanuel filed a request for a judicial notice of the dismissal of the New York action, asserting that it was probative, right, of the issues on the special motion to strike. February the 25th, last line, 2025, at the hearing on the special motion, counsel for Jay-Z again attempted to make an issue of the negotiated dismissal, arguing that it offered evidence of falsity and recklessness because the Busby parties dismissed it voluntarily with prejudice. Counsel for Jay-Z did not disclose that this was the result of a negotiation. The court astutely rejected that argument and observed that it might have happened because the Jane Doe girl said, and I quote, "I do not want to have to go through the firestorm I'm going through. This is exactly what had happened. At the February 25th, 2025 hearing, Jay-Z's counsel represented to the court that his office had just this morning been made aware of quote unquote new evidence and requested a continuance of the hearing to the following Monday. Counsel was unable to provide any detail on the nature of the quote unquote new evidence. That new evidence was later revealed to have been obtained 4 days earlier. At the court's discretion, counsel for Jay-Z and counsel for Busby parties met and conferred telephonically the following Friday, February the 28th, 2025, regarding the proffer of new evidence. Counsel for Tony Busby parties requested that the description of the new evidence at issue, right? Requested a description of new evidence at issue. The counsel for Jay-Z advised that she could not provide any additional detail, but suggested that she would be able to do so the following Monday. The meet and confer was rescheduled to that Monday, March the 3rd, 2025, only to be canceled again on that Monday by Jay-Z's lawyer. Right? I want y'all to think about this now. On Monday, March the 3rd, 2025, the Busby parties learned from media reports that Jay-Z had filed a new lawsuit in district court in Alabama against Tony Busby and his firm, another attorney from his firm, and the Jane Doe. The Alabama case alleges that the Jane Doe, through Tony Busby, sent Jay-Z an extortionate letter dated November the 5th, 2024, right? And it just says all the things, just a little legal stuff right there, y'all see, right? Now let's go to the funk, right? Let's go to the funk. Because I want to skip all this. I want to get right to the meat and potatoes of this shit, right? Oh, let me go to this part right here. I got to go to this part right here. Got to go to this part right here for y'all. Look at the middle part of that page where it says 4. Carter's new evidence from investigators is also inadmissible. Let's talk about that part right there. Now watch this, y'all, because the evidence is coming. It says that Carter, Jay-Z's quote-unquote new evidence, is also inadmissible hearsay, right? Jay-Z urges that Jane Doe's alleged statements were a declaration against interest under evidence code. This argument fails, right? Only a statement that is so against the interest of the declarant that no reasonable person would utter it qualifies for this exception. And most, if not all, the purported statements at issue here fall short of that standard under the circumstances. There is no evidence, for instance, that the Jane Doe would have understood the statements to be against her interest. Indeed, the statements attributed to Jane Doe by the investigators attribute misconduct to the Busby parties, as they must, for purposes of opposing the motion, not Jane Doe. Such statements are not clearly against Jane Doe's interests. Moreover, in assessing whether a statement falls within this exception, courts place a heavy emphasis on both the statement and the circumstances, with a focus on whether the statement has sufficient indicia of reliability, right? It goes on to say, we'll skip that little thing right there. It goes on to say right here, y'all, in the second paragraph, here is overwhelming evidence of lack of reliability of the proffered evidence. For one thing, the Jane Doe flatly denies the statements set forth in the investigators' declarations. As noted above, the timeline being advocated by Carter is also incoherent and easily disproven by reference to undisputed and undisputable facts. The evidence further establishes that Jane Doe was and remains frightened of retaliation and harassment from Jay-Z and was ambushed by 2 investigators at her home only a week after she had, as part of a negotiated deal, dismissed her claims against Jay-Z to make such harassment stop. 7. Further, the investigators' own declarations indicate that Jane Doe abandoned her lawsuit against Jay-Z because she thought Jay-Z would quote unquote unalive her or otherwise retaliate against her. Henderson Declaration, Part 7. Mr. Busby told Mrs. Doe that Mr. Carter was threatening to unalive her in response to her lawsuit and could come after her, end quote. Right? Busby says that's not true. He says he didn't tell her that. He says, but regardless, the investigators' own declarations suggest that the statements they claim to obtain were made by a frightened woman to agents of a man she thought capable of killing her. Any statements given by a woman who's supposedly an anonymous alleged victim of sexual abuse, who is frightened of retaliation, made to 2 investigators who unexpectedly appeared at her home, are inherently unreliable. Intimidation is inherent to such a situation. The investigators' own declarations likewise indicate that Jane Doe refused to sign an affidavit, which further undercuts any supposed reliability. Further, the sequence of events proffered by Carter, Jay-Z, is questionable. According to Jay-Z, Jane Doe conspired to prosecute a false claim, signed multiple sworn declarations affirming his false claim, of this false claim, vigorously defend that false claim to the media, and submit declarations and its actions affirming it again, only to voluntarily admit that she made it up as soon as two investigators surprised her at her home just in time for the hearing on the motion. Next page. This theory suggests either intimidation or falsity. Either way, any statements extracted under these circumstances are not reliable. And then it just goes on to talk about that situation. Now, what do you guys come to see? Well, I'm going to take y'all what y'all came to see. This right here. This was a New York lawyer that Tony Busby had got to add on his case. Remember I told y'all, I said, Tony Busby went and got the New York lawyers on this case. Well, the New York lawyer, he wrote his own declaration. The New York lawyer was the lawyer that negotiated with Jay-Z's lawyers for this case. And we're going to see what he said right here, right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see it right now, right? And so I'm going to show you guys the evidence that Tony Busby has presented in court. I'm going to show you guys because Tony Busby presented, and I didn't even say Tony Busby, excuse me, the New York lawyer who, this lawyer, remember, this was a law firm for Donald Trump. I told you guys this. I showed y'all this. That Kasowitz law firm. Remember I told y'all about that? The Kasowitz law firm? I told y'all about that law firm. Remember I told y'all that? I said, hey, check out the Kasowitz law firm, y'all. And so that was the New York law firm that Tony Busby added on to that case, right? So that girl, remember Tony Busby, when Jay-Z started suing him, still when the case was going, he went and got another lawyer. He went and got those New York lawyers. I told y'all that. So those New York lawyers were the lawyers who talked. Those New York lawyers were the lawyers who talked to Jay-Z's lawyers. And I have the proof. Hold on 1 second. I have the proof. And I'm going to show it. Just give me 1 second. Hey, killer, shut up, man. Hey, killer, shut up. I had the proof. My bad, y'all. Oh, boy, going off. I had to get him to be quiet. He's going crazy out there. So, anyways, let me go ahead and break this down for y'all right now, right? So, as y'all see in this writing, it says, and this is Mark Kasowitz. This is the lawyer that Tony Busby, the New York lawyers that Tony Busby had added on to this case with him and that girl. It says, I, Mark Kasowitz, declare as follows. I'm an attorney with decades of experience practicing in the state of New York and other jurisdictions. I'm a partner at the firm Kasowitz Benson Torres LLP, a firm that I founded more than 30 years ago and which now employs more than 250 attorneys. I and my firm are counsel for the Busby Law Firm and Anthony G. Busby, collectively the Busby parties. If called as a witness, this is number 2, y'all. If called as a witness, I could and would competently testify to all the facts within my personal knowledge, except were stated upon information and belief. This declaration is submitted in opposition to Plaintiff Sean Carter's ex parte application and supplement the record or obtain discovery in connection with defendant's special motion to strike. And in further support of Busby party's special motion to strike, number four, my firm was retained and entered in appearance on behalf of the Busby parties and their Jane Doe client in this case filed on behalf of Jane Doe in the district court for the Southern District of New York against Sean Combs and others, including plaintiff Sean Carter. My firm was retained to respond. Remember I told y'all when Jay-Z and them filed for that motion for sanctions, they went and Tony Busby went and hired them New York lawyers, them high-powered New York lawyers. When Jay-Z said I was going to file for motion for sanctions, Tony Busby upped the ante. He went and hired those New York lawyers. So it says my firm was retained to respond to a motion for sanctions against Tony Busby or the Busby parties filed by Jay-Z and his attorneys at Quinn Emanuel LLP, Quinn Emanuel, in the New York action. On or about January the 22nd, 2025, my firm filed an opposition to the motion for sanctions, which I believe was meritless and would almost certainly have been successful if the motion for sanctions had been fully litigated. Number five, on or about February the 1st, 2025, I was contacted via email by John Quinn, a partner and founder of Quinn Emanuel, and his partner, Alex Spiro, Carter's lead attorney in New York action, to discuss a possible resolution of the dispute involving Carter, Jane Doe, Jane Doe, Jane Doe, and the dispute involving Carter, Jane Doe, and the Busby parties. Therefore, I engaged in discussions with Mr. Spiro in early February of 2025. So he basically saying he took over in discussions. So with him and Alex Spiro, they had, discussions to come to a resolution because this girl had been so afraid she wanted to drop the case. So they wanted to come to a mutual agreement. They're saying because they wanted the girl to stop being harassed. Because they said that the girl they said it was just too bad. They said she was in fear of her life, is what they were saying. I guess that's what she was saying. Excuse me. It says that the substance of our discussions included a mutual recognition that a continued public dispute was damaging for all parties, including Jay-Z, the Busby parties, and Jane Doe, and that it would be best for all concerned to stand down and cease further litigation. Throughout my discussions with Mr. Spiro, I made clear that both Jane Doe and Tony Busby parties stood by the substance of her claims against Jay-Z, Mr. Carter. But for reasons set forth in her February the 27th, 2025 declaration submitted into this court, which had nothing to do with the substance of her claims, she would consider dropping those claims, which, as set forth below, she later agreed to do. Number six, Mr. Spiro and I eventually reached an understanding that the parties would agree to quote unquote walk away, whereby they would drop all their disputes against each other and disengage from litigation in the interest of global peace. We negotiated and agreed to a phased withdrawal of the New York action, and our agreement is reflected in an email exchange dated February the 4th, 2025. A true and correct copy of that February the 4th, 2025 email exchange with Mr. Spiro is attached hereto as Exhibit A evidence. And I'm going to show you that evidence. As set forth in Exhibit A hereto, the agreement provided for one, the withdrawal of the motion for sanctions and the New York action. Remember, I told y'all, why did Jay-Z file for motion for sanctions to be dropped? If he was going after Tony Busby and Tony Busby was this scumbag, why did Jay-Z file for motion for sanctions to be dropped? Why did he do that? This is a question everybody has to ask themselves. And I was telling you guys this from the beginning, man. I've been telling y'all this from the very beginning. But, people didn't want to listen to me, man. And I kept asking y'all that same question. I said, yo, why was a motion for sanctions dropped? Why was a motion for sanctions dropped? Nobody wanted to give me that answer. They didn't want to answer. I kept and continuously asking these people, why was the motion for sanctions dropped? Nobody wanted to answer that. Now it's out here in the open public. They dropped the motion for sanctions because they wanted Tony Busby, client, to drop the lawsuit. The girl wanted to drop the lawsuit because she said she was tired of being harassed and she was afraid for herself. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Right? Number 6. Let's go right to number 6. It says, Mr. Spyro, right there, number 6, top of your page. Mr. Spyro and I reached an understanding that the parties would agree to a quote-unquote walk away, whereby they would drop all their disputes against each other and disengage from litigation in the interest of global peace. We negotiated and agreed to a phased withdrawal of the New York action, and our agreement is reflected in an email exchange dated February the 4th, 2025. A true and correct copy of that February the 4th, 2025 email exchange with Mr. Spyro is attached to hereto as Exhibit A. As set forth in Exhibit A hereto, the agreement provided for number 1, the withdrawal of the motion for sanctions and the New York action. Number 2, the dismissal of the New York action within 10 days thereafter. And number 3, so read this one more time, y'all. Number 1, the agreement was they had to withdraw from motion for sanctions. They did that. Jay-Z and them did that. Number 1, withdrawal of the motion for sanctions and the New York action. Number 1, they did that. Number 2, the dismissal of the New York action within 10 days thereafter. This is the reason why Jay-Z's lawyer, Alex Spyro, dropped the motion without prejudice, because he had to be sure that if he dropped his motion for sanctions with prejudice, he knew that they could lie to him and not drop their lawsuit. So this is the reason why Alex Spyro dropped his motion for sanctions without prejudice, because he had to be sure and hold that over their head that if they didn't drop that lawsuit in 10 days, he would bring that back up. That was the reason why. But they had to drop theirs with prejudice so they could never be brought up again. And the agreement is that you will never ever speak with this woman, harass this woman, have any private investigators or anybody connected to y'all harass this woman again. It's right there in your paperwork. But I'm going to show you the email, so just wait for it. So it says, right? It says, number 2, the dismissal of the New York action within 10 days thereafter. And number 3, a commitment by Carter, Jay-Z, and his attorneys that they will not authorize, employ, or otherwise engage investigators or anyone else to harass or otherwise interact with my client, his law firm, or his present former client's employee's family. Number 7, in accordance with our agreement, Quinn Emanuel and Carter, Jay-Z, withdrew their motion for sanctions in New York action on or about February the 4th, 2025. Number 8, in further performance of our agreement and reliance on the understanding that the parties' disputes were to be gradually withdrawn, the Busby parties and Jane Doe dismissed the New York action with prejudice on or about February the 14th, 2025. Number 9, I was surprised and disturbed to subsequently learn that Jay-Z and Quinn Emanuel almost immediately sought to use the negotiated dismissal of the New York action as evidence against Tony Busby's parties in the California action, and that the investigators made in-person contact with Jane Doe within a week of the dismissal, notwithstanding the explicit agreement with Mr. Spiro and Carter that no such contact was to be made. The escalatory conduct is completely contrary to the understanding that led to the dismissal of the New York action, which was premised on a mutual cessation of hostilities. I declare, under the penalty of perjury, under the laws of the state of California, that the foregoing is true and correct. Now, ticket, where's the evidence? They dropped it in the filing right there. The email from Mark E. Kasowitz to Alex Spiro. Spiro, here is our proposal. 1, you and your clients, Jay-Z and Roc Nation, will withdraw the Rule 11 motion. 2, 10 days later, the plaintiff will withdraw the complaint with prejudice. 3, you and your clients and their agents will not authorize, employ, or otherwise engage investigators or anyone else to harass or otherwise interact with my client. Now, let me ask y'all this question. This email was dated on February the 4th. Why in the hell, in a private email, would these guys say, look, don't harass our client if she wasn't being harassed? And I'm waiting on y'all to say it's fake so they can go through the email company and prove that it's real. Number 3, you and your clients and their agents will not authorize, employ, or otherwise engage investigators or anyone else to harass or otherwise interact with my client, his law firm, or his present and former clients, employees, and family. Neither you nor your client is admitting that you have done or known about it. Just a commitment that you won't. He even let them admit that y'all didn't even do this. We just saying that y'all won't do it. Top of the screen. From Alex Spiro to Mark Kasowitz. Response. Okay. This was entered into evidence. This is the evidence that Tony Busby has dropped. And the Kasowitz law firm, big time New York law firm. So they're dropping evidence that this was negotiated under terms of good faith, because obviously they're saying right there in the email that they did not want that girl to be harassed. This was on February the 4th. February the 4th. Tony Busby just dropped this. He just dropped it. And sir, that's cap. OJBG, TMZ reported that. You can't believe a word Diddy's lawyers say. You know why? Because Cassie lawyer just came out right after that and said it's a damn lie. They have the tape and it will be admitted. They believe it will be admitted in court. Bro, I told y'all believe anything Diddy lawyers say? There it is right there on your screen, dog. They played y'all a tape, didn't play you the full tape, had excerpts, didn't have no transcript, no video footage. Want y'all to think that they just walked up to this girl's crib out of the blue, approached her, talked to her, and she was calm. After they had settled this lawsuit, and Alex Spiro said on the news, he said himself on the news, Alex Spiro said, hey man, I'm gonna tell you right now, people around Jay-Z, this is what Spiro said on ABC. I'm not making this up. I'll play it for you right now before I get up out of here. I'll play it for you right now. What Spiro said. This man said it on, he said it on the news. He said it on the news. Right there. Let me play this for y'all. Because y'all must think this thing is I told y'all, man. It was either going to be Tony Busby or it was going to be Spiro. And Tony Busby came up in the clutch with the game on the line. I told y'all the other day, Tony Busby had to come with a Michael Jordan type of performance in the clutch because you were going against the big dogs. And this is why I said what I said. You had to go deep in your bag. Deep in your bag. Excuse me, sir. They said, listen, you don't have evidence of that. Truth and consequences. You got to understand one thing, sir. It's easy for you to say, you cannot say stuff like that if you don't have the evidence. Us. It's different. Listen, let me say this to you. I'm not a victim. I am only a reporter. I cannot speak from the position of a victim. That's the part y'all don't understand. Y'all want niggas that's reporters and ladies that's reporters to speak on the perspective, from the perspective of victims. I can't. I can only speak on the perspective of a reporter and of a man who give a shit. Period. You got to understand that. It's different when you're in that situation. It's way different. I can't tell you how a victim feels. I can only speak up for them. But then how many times have we seen people that we swore was telling the truth and they lied? So that's why you always have to be impartial. Right? Or wrong? This is what Spiro said.
ABC News exclusive interview with Jay
on ABC News. Listen to what Spiro said.
Her lawyer put her up.
People are.
Listen to what Spiro said, y'all.
After the woman, identified as Jane Doe, permanently dropped her lawsuit against both Carter and Combs last month.
The people around Mr. Carter wanted to know what happened behind closed doors. And so they asked for her to be interviewed. The interview occurred, and the tape speaks for itself. She says,
sir, I think something's wrong with you, Truth and Consequences. This is not evidence. Read what he wrote in the email. Read the last line, man. You guys got to really, yeah. Listen, I know that y'all want to stick it to these guys. Listen, I'm just saying to you, I cannot literally put something there that I don't see in front of my face. In the email, it says, read the last line of the email, sir. It says, neither you nor your client is admitting that you have done or known about it, meaning harassing this woman. So they're giving them an out. It's not that they're saying, hey, man, y'all know y'all did this to the girl, but we gonna save it. They didn't put that in there. I can't add that to the paperwork. Y'all want me to come in here and add stuff in there, and I wasn't there. Only the people that can say that is the people who was involved in these things. That's the part y'all got to understand. That's why you guys, y'all should not have networks, because all y'all be getting sued every day. Right? Excuse me, sir. I said the girl never said they were harassed. Listen, I said the girl never said that the private investigators harassed her while she was in litigation. If she did, Tony Busby would have been on top of that shit. If she would have went to Tony Busby and them investigators would have went to her while the case was going on, man, they'd have been out of here, bro. What are you talking about? Why do you think that even Tony Busby said in his writing that they went to her after they had came to that agreement and the case was already dismissed with prejudice? There was no on the hook to be. Right? Y'all got to understand this. Y'all got to understand this. You got to understand this, man. Straight up, bro. You got to understand it, bro. You got to understand it. Got to understand it. Right? I'm just telling y'all what's up. Right? I'm just being real with y'all. Right? Right? Just keeping it real. You guys, y'all, man, bro. This is the part where, you know, people will attack you and say, oh, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? You guys got to understand that, man. It's real, bro. It's real out here, man. And this shit just got real. Now that they dropped this evidence, man, and Alex Spiro, man, listen, bro. Again, let me play y'all what he said. My bad. I wanted to play what he said so y'all can hear what he said. They had an agreement, according to this email. And they weren't supposed, and so that's why when the the private investigators wrote their report, they said, oh no, we wasn't hired by Jay-Z or his attorneys. Who was you hired by then? Who in the hell hired you to go do this? But Spiro said this. And this is forever, in my opinion, going to stick with Alex Spiro, that he said this.
In a sworn declaration that she felt intimidated and terrified at being confronted by these two individuals on my doorstep. Was she coerced in any way?
Of course not. They did not coerce her, promise or threaten her in any way, shape, or form. She voluntarily met and spoke to them, and she told them her truth, which was, under no circumstances did Mr. Carter do this. And number two, the only reason he's even involved in this is she was pushed to introduce him by a lawyer.
Does your client know Jane Doe?
No.
Ever met her?
Mr. Carter doesn't know Jane Doe, never met Jane Doe. There's no truth to any of this.
I beat them charges like Rocky.
One of the world's best-selling artists with more than 140 million albums sold, Jay-Z is also husband to Beyonce and a father of 3.
Like we from Lagos, Mansa Musa reincarnated. We on our level.
He vehemently denied the allegations at the outset. He spoke about the painful impact that they had, especially on his kids. How as a father, has he tried to handle this?
It's tough to hear a false lie said about you, spread through the internet, and affecting your children.
Now, listen to what else he said right here. Right here.
He dropped her lawsuit against both Carter and Combs last month.
The people around Mr. Carter wanted to know what happened behind closed doors. And so they asked for her to be interviewed. The interview occurred, and the tape speaks for itself.
Who asked for him? People around Mr. Carter. Who? How did they find out about this girl? Say it again.
Her lawsuit against both Carter and Combs last month.
The people around Mr. Carter wanted to know what happened behind closed doors. And so they asked for her to be interviewed. The interview occurred, and the tape speaks for itself. She says, in no uncertain terms, Mr. Carter did not do this. It is effectively a lie. And the only reason Mr. Carter is even involved in this is because she was pushed to involve him, pushed to include him by a lawyer.
There y'all have it. And trust me, these lawyers are going to use that email paper trail to prove. Now, I want to hear what Spyro and Jay-Z are going to say about this paper right here. Nobody knew that there was an agreement that they had came to in order to settle that lawsuit. You all thought that girl did that because, oh, it wasn't true, this, that, and the third. But remember, when those investigators asked her questions, they said, oh, so Jay-Z and Diddy were both at the party, but Jay-Z didn't do nothing to you. What you mean? They were both at the party. I thought y'all said he wasn't at the party. Now, all of a sudden, y'all accepting her quote that say that they were? Man, get the hell out of here, man. Man, like, share, subscribe. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. I dropped some mic on all these bums running around me, man. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all know what it is, man. Stop playing with me, man. And like I said, it was going to come down to who was going to come up big in the clutch in the fourth quarter. NBA Finals, man. Period. You understand what I said? Y'all see what it is, man. And Tony Busby pulled up like Michael Jordan in Game 6 against the Utah Jazz, nigga. 1990 what? 1990 what? 1990 what? 1998? Game over, nigga. Walk off the court, nigga. Let that shit hang. Didn't I tell y'all this? It was going to come to either Spyro or either Tony Busby. Now, I do still have questions for Busby. First of all, why didn't you drop the whatchamacallit? You said you was going to drop the lie detectors test. He should have did that. Why didn't you get your license in the Southern District of New York? Those are legitimate questions for him. Man, I'm tired of cooking y'all. I'm gone, man. Y'all go subscribe to Katie Shayla, man. Salute to her, man. Much love to y'all, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. I'm gone, man. Tired of cooking these dudes every single day. I'm putting these dudes in the crock pot. I'm gone. All right, you guys. So we appreciate everybody that popped in, supported this video. Make sure that you guys shop our merch. We got that new A-Weapons merchandise right there below this video. All you gotta do is look below. The links will be pinned at the top of the comment section as well to get the merch, to donate, support the channel, and subscribe to our podcast show. You'll see all those links pinned at the top of the comment section of this video. And we appreciate everybody that supports this channel and our networks. Also, that straight drop weight loss formula. Go to the website. You guys will see that. A link for that will be pinned at the top of the comment section as well. Go right there for all of your weight loss needs. Straight drop weight loss formula. We have a lot of testimonials on the website. You can go to www.str-8-drop.com and get you some of the weight loss formula today. Take your weight loss serious. Get in the gym, work out, exercise, and do what you got to do. Stay on point. We appreciate everybody that's been locked into this video. Again, all the links are pinned at the top of the comment section below. Salute to all of y'all. And again, we appreciate everybody who support what we doing over here.